Trump 2.0 marches ever closer, and every day we hear another piece of news about how awful things are going to be. And none of it is surprising. Genghis Khan bragged on the campaign trail about all the awful things he was going to do. But a startling poll from CNN shows that things may not go according to his plans. T. Rump is not even in office, and his top priorities are coming out. He's already talking about totally destructive tariffs, starting with Canada and Mexico. He and his nominee for border czar are talking about mass deportations, and his other cabinet nominees are reflective of his desire for weaponizing both the DOJ and the FBI, and then using them to prosecute Lynn Cheney and Adam Kinzinger. He's also intent on sharing our national security top secrets with Russia by putting Tulsi Gabbard in charge of national security, and of course, weaponizing our military by putting someone like Pete Hegseth in charge, so that the military can be used not only in the mass deportation scheme, but against American citizens in general. And then, of course, there's a little matter of cutting Social Security and Medicare. In short, Trump plans on making 2.0 a virtual bulldozing of American democracy to feed his unquenchable ego. But that unquenchable ego is actually his Achilles heel, because Trump believes his lies, or at least thinks they don't matter. But the signs are everywhere that rather than an unstoppable bulldozer, Trump 2.0 is going to be the story of hubris and FAFO. You know, F around and find out. And there are already signs of a lot of FAFO going on right about now. The top two Google searches after T. Rump was elected were, "What's a tariff?" and "How can I change my vote?" Not a good sign for a political juggernaut. And of course, then there's the irony of union leaders backing Trump and now finding out that he hates unions.
One of those union leaders also spoke at a Trump rally shortly before the election. He says he was shocked to hear the president-elect come out so strongly against the deal so soon after the election.
Very frustrated with the news that came out last night. I thought, I didn't think that, I didn't expect that to come out. So that was like a gut punch.
Union leaders at the U.S. Steel Irvin Works say 95% of their members are in favor of the Nippon merger, and many of them were at the Trump rally in Pittsburgh the day before the election. The union leaders say they were initially skeptical of the deal, but they came around after meeting with Nippon officials during the summer. Nippon pledged to spend $1 billion to upgrade the 86-year-old hot strip mill at Irvin Works. West Mifflin's mayor says one job at Irvin Works supports another 7 jobs in his community.
Trump and his toadies foolishly think that Americans are going to put up with mass deportations, thinking that the sight of the military invading our cities to take away brown people is going to silence and intimidate us. They're wrong. But the latest polling from CNN also shows Trump is wrong about pardoning the J6 convicts. Watch this.
In a word, they think it's a terrible idea. Terrible, terrible, terrible. Pardoning for the January 6th protesters. Oppose it. 64%, about 2/3 of Americans oppose it. Just 30% favor it. And more than that, this Ipsos poll asked, should he prioritize it to be like the first thing he does when he gets into office? Just 1% say it should be Trump's top priority. So in a word, it's a terrible idea. I guess that's 2 words, and then idea is a 3rd word in there, for Trump to pardon the January 6th protesters. Even among Republicans, it's only a slight majority. Of course, usually Trump gets, 80, 90% among Republicans. In this case, he's getting less than 60% on the idea of pardoning the January 6th protesters. So no, voters really dislike it. How about this? Americans strongly dislike the idea of these pardons for the January 6th protesters.
Yeah, when you see numbers like this, it's not just on party lines here. There's sort of bipartisan condemnation of the idea. Why?
Why? Well, what's a word to describe the January 6th protesters? Patriotism. Patriotism comes in at just 33%. I think a lot of those who want those folks to be pardoned believe that they were patriotic in their actions on January 6th, 2021. But voters don't see it that way. How about insurrection, which is a word a lot who don't like the January 6th protesters say? Insurrection, 53%. The majority say that the actions on January 6th was, in fact, an insurrection. So the idea that there's opposition to pardoning them makes a whole heck of a lot of sense when the fact is most folks opposed the actions of the January 6th protesters, and most of them thought that they were taking part in an insurrection, which, John, is a very, very strong word. And yet the majority of Americans here 53% say that is a word to describe the January 6th protesters.
Yeah, and when you look at this right, when you look at it right here, you still see 64% oppose it.
So numbers like that would intimidate most politicians, but it's not going to stop Trump. He and his cronies are confident that they can get their right-wing echo chamber to make the false equivalency between J6 convicts and Hunter Biden. Yeah, they're wrong. Smart Democrats aren't even going to try and deconstruct the false equivalency. They're just going to say Trump pardoned violent insurrectionists, period. End of story. The Trump cabal is also confident that this is not going to be an instance of FAFO. In the end, very few people are actually going to be impacted negatively by these pardons. Except for the family members of these MAGA morons who are now going to have to live with them again. Sorry, guys, vacation from insanity is now over. But what these numbers show is that Trump and his team are not going to get away with this. If Trump pardons the J6 criminals, it is going to negatively impact the Republican Party in the 2026 midterms. One of many things that are going to turn around majorities in the House and Senate. Tariffs wreaking havoc on the economy, mass deportations wreaking havoc on the economy, weaponizing the Justice Department, and pardoning the J6 convicts. Good luck running on that in 2026, Republicans. 60 congressional seats changed in 2018. When these plans go through, it will be even more. And the same thing will go on in the Senate. Who's up for impeachment 3.0? I'm Anthony Vincent Gallo for Occupy Democrats.